No.
Yeah, it must be yours.
Does it keep going? It keeps happening?
It was like more frequent, and this was the first time in a while. I wonder if it's the fan on your computer.
Maybe. It might be getting hot. Okay. Turning on salt.
Sorry, guys. I had to go take a picture of a paint can.
Yeah, that's okay.
Is she here yet?
No, she's not. Let's just get started, and
I think we should just get started.
Okay, so our first thing that we have to discuss is we need to talk about the employment at will and exception. So can somebody explain to me what employment at will means?
Yes, my understanding of employment at will is that it allows both the employer,
Yes, it really worked.
both the employer and the employee, the ability to say, I'm done. It's not working out.
With no reason.
With no reason.
Right.
Right, but then over the years, they've come up with different exceptions. We need to talk about each exception. So the first one is the breach of implied contract. So what does that mean? I have a hard time understanding the legal jargon. That's why I think that's like, I don't understand. So anyways, the breach of implied contract, that's an exception to the employment at will clause. What exactly does that mean? Exception to the employment at will.
So that, if I understand it correctly again, that is when there are certain factors that give somebody the reason to believe everything's fine, they've been doing their job well, and that there is no reason for them to be dismissed. Is that how everybody else understood it?
Yeah. Yep. So this is a contract between the employer and employee that is created by the actions of the employer. The employer could imply that the employee will have continued employment by making statements about how well the employee is doing. The employer could also create an implied contract for an employment manual that details termination practices. For example, a 3-strike policy that says they have to give you notice before a class.
Is it happening still, Atan?
Yeah, try muting your computer.
I'm losing it. Because your voice gets super quiet, and then I'm like,
yeah, it's almost like there's something competing with your voice. I could barely hear you, Jordan.
You can?
Well, right now you're fine.
Computer. I'm gonna try and join on my phone.
So whatever you were reading, it was difficult to hear, but I'm assuming
it again. Are you sure?
I have it right here, so I'm good. Is everybody else good?
Oh, come on, Jennifer. Taking all my fun.
Oh, shoot.
I know. All right, so the next exception we have to talk about is the breach of implied covenant of good faith and fair dealing.
Okay.
So anybody want to tackle that one?
Okay, so hopefully there won't be crazy noise now.
That's actually a lot better.
Yeah, you sound a lot better too.
Well, my computer sucks, so there's that.
The weed eater.
Yeah, goodness.
You know, I didn't highlight anything in breach of implied covenant, so I don't know if I just kind of, like, nothing stood out to me for being great. I don't know. Let me reread it.
All it is it could come into play whenever an employer unfairly tries to avoid doing what they agreed to do under the contract by terminating an employee.
Okay.
So basically, if they agreed to keep me on for 6 months in a contract and then they breach that contract. The violation of public policy exception.
I actually have a personal experience with breach of implied covenant, but we can talk about that later.
Oh, do share.
Violation of,
Now's a good time.
You want to talk about it?
Yeah, because we're going to move off of this and start talking about the other.
So my husband is a physician, and his contract is it was, because he's no longer there. His contract was that he had to give 90 days notice, which is 3 months, right? Anyway, however, the owner of the practice is a full-time doctor. Nathan was the only other full-time doctor, and they have a handful of girls that are just part-time. And so in the contract prior, he said that the next contract re-up, they would discuss partnership. So it was time for the contract to come due, and Nathan went to lunch with him to discuss partnership, and this guy is kind of a snake. And we knew that. We had been with him for 4 years. And the guy said, no, I think what we need to do is open another office, and then we'll discuss partnership. So Nathan said, okay, then I'm done. And he said, no, you're going to have to give 90 days notice. And Nathan said, no, I'm done, because he had found something else to do, a different job. Anyway, so what ended up happening was we went to pull up the contract where it said that he would be offered partnership, and he wasn't offered partnership. And the contract they had on file was not signed by Nathan, and it wasn't empty. It was a copied signature from something else that they had put on his contract, and they were trying to enforce it. So we stood our ground and said, we contacted an attorney and stood our ground and said, I know it says 90 days, but we're not giving 90 days. I am not hanging around in this office for 90 days. Then Nathan started demanding the original contract that didn't have his other signature, and they couldn't find it, and they started freaking out. So the office manager said, maybe it's at his house. We'll go to his house and see if he's kept it at his house. Well, they could never find it. And the doctor threatened to sue Nathan, because he's an attorney too. He's a doctor and an attorney. So he threatened to sue Nathan, and he said, I'll take you to court if you don't give me the 90 days. And so we contacted an attorney, and the attorney looked over and said, nope, you don't have to give 90 days. Because this is a mess and he cannot do this. So we ended up pulling out. But can you even believe that? It was pretty scary.
Wow.
And on top of that, we had to pay $24,000 in tel coverage when he left.
What?
For insurance.
Wow.
Crazy, huh?
Wow.
Anyway, sorry. But that's my story about because Nathan wasn't holding up his side of the bargain that he had signed, but the owner didn't either. So it was kind of like a double breach of implied covenant.
Wow.
Anyway,
So,
okay.
were we on violation of public policy?
We are, yeah.
Okay.
So the violation of public policy is basically terminating an employee for refusing to commit an unlawful act, such as serving on a jury duty, blowing the whistle, filing for workers' comp, or refusing to date one's boss. So that's an exception to the at-will. And then the last one is the discrimination statuses, and we talked about that in prior ones with the Title VII covering race, national origin, gender, and religion, the American with Disabilities Act, and the age discrimination. So those are the at-will and exceptions. The next thing we're going to talk about is the 2 tough calls study. And I kind of enjoyed this case study. I thought it was funny. I really, really liked her brashness and her bluntness. I thought that was really good. And being only 27 and already having that mentality and thought process and managing was really great.
Yeah.
So I actually enjoyed reading it. So, so we're going to talk about Terry first, and then we'll talk about Phil. So the first thing we're going to talk about is what impact does Terry have on the company's bottom line?
A negative one.
Mm-hmm. Why?
Well, they're paying him money, and he is not good. He doesn't He's not offering anything to the company.
Right.
I would say that's probably the only way he is impacting the bottom line is his pay and his benefits, simply because his team was covering for him.
Yeah.
So I don't think they lost money on him that way, but.
Right. He wasn't generating revenue. Nothing he was doing was generating or was increasing the revenue at all. So his salary and benefits are pure cost.
Right.
In a company, and in my notes it says here that the company is only making $300,000 a year. So who knows how much he's getting paid, but to the company that's making such a small revenue, that's got to be a big chunk of not a big chunk, but a large enough problem that they would need to.
Right.
How about Phil? What is his effect on the bottom line seem to be?
I don't think Phil as much, but I agreed with her though. I didn't think Phil was nearly as a big problem as Terry was.
Right. At least he was contributing.
Right.
Right.
Doing something that was helping other managers so that freed up their time so that they could focus on other things. So at least he was contributing a little bit.
And they talked about how he wasn't necessarily doing a full person's job, but that he could. He had the potential, whereas Terry had no potential. He was just terrible at everything. So
yeah. So based on what we've learned about employment at will and exceptions, what legal obligations could the manager have to Terry? Are there any of those exceptions or that apply to Terry?
Well, I think they all kind of apply because it's at will, right? So, but they had, I mean, I don't know. What was your question one more time?
Just what we've learned.
Any of the exceptions we just talked about?
What legal obligations could the manager have to Terry? So, like the possibility of an implied contract. Maybe they had a contract with him that said that they couldn't fire him for whatever reason.
Maybe. Because they didn't really talk about that, did they?
They didn't say it, but there was, like, the notes say that there's an implied contract. They didn't specifically come out and say, but because he was hired by the CEOs, there was probably some sort of protection in there with him.
That's what I'm thinking but that's not really necessarily fair or like legal, but I agree with you. I think there was a social protection there.
Right.
Totally. And there's also the possibility of age discrimination that he could run into because I think he said he was 40 something years old.
Yeah.
So there's that, especially because she was only 27. So there could be that look of age discrimination. How about with Phil? What kind of things could they face?
Poor Phil.
I know.
Phil had the issue with illness.
Right. So just the possibility of disability discrimination then.
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
And age discrimination there too, right? Because he's older.
There could have been some age discrimination there too. But the biggest thing with him is the disability because so long. It looks like, hey, if we fire him now, are you firing him just because he missed a ton of work? Like it kind of, I was reading that. I'm like, it kind of his disability overshadowed his performance, especially because they started rallying behind him. And I thought it was really neat and awesome that they did that. But at the same time, it kind of hindered her position of wanting to end his employment. So.
Yeah.
What ethical obligations does the manager have to Terry and to Phil? Are there any?
You know what? I don't know if I was supposed to read this or not yet, but I've already read B.
So don't say anything yet. Have you guys all read B?
No.
You were
okay.
Until after.
So I read it because I got all of my reading done, and I just think she handled it extremely well. So
she did. Totally.
Maybe I'll let those two answer because I feel like I'll blow it if I.
Yeah. Anybody else have any, like, could Terry, she mentioned that Terry had a gun in his car, that top management wanted to retain him. He'd been given high scores in the past. So they've got all of these things that behind Terry that are kind of like, gun,
right.
Safety issues up to the other three. And I thought it was funny how she mentioned, like, oh yeah, he's got a gun and I don't know if he's going to come in here and shoot up the office.
You know what? That lady and I are like this. I really appreciated her viewpoint.
Yeah, she's really intelligent.
I was like, yeah, I totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah. So, now in regards to Phil, he thinks he should get a promotion. Right? He's been there for so long. He felt like he should get a promotion.
Right.
His really been rallying around him. And how does the rallying around him affect the morale of the company if he's let go? What happens?
I think people would see him as an underdog, and if he were to let go, that upsets a lot of people when there's somebody trying hard and have done their job. I know it wouldn't upset the bosses. The bosses hated him.
Right, but everybody else liked him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I wonder if there was a sense of like, this guy is kind of in the same position as my buddy. So if I put on the, I don't like him, maybe everybody else will start to trickle down, and then my buddy won't be in such a place for like out of balance.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Although I felt like the bosses were totally naive to the fact that their buddy was such an idiot.
Do you think they were? Or do you think they just wanted their buddy to work there?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
I think it was a little bit of
really?
both.
I wonder, but so when I was reading, I was thinking the same thing, because everybody up until her had given him
good marks.
But he saw it from the beginning, like this guy is not doing good. But everybody was so afraid of ruffling feathers, they didn't report what was really happening. So maybe the CEOs were in the dark. I don't know. I can't imagine that a CEO would really be in the dark about that and like be that.
Right.
Think, and then all of a sudden out of the blue, somebody says, well, he's not doing a good job. I can't imagine that they were totally blind to it. If they were, then maybe they shouldn't be CEOs.
Yeah, they're not good businessmen.
Yeah, I don't know.
But
I mean, at the end of the day, I guess you believe what you want to believe, right? So
right. Well, they hired him even after the 5.
Everybody said no.
Everybody said no.
That's the part where I think that they can't be that naive.
Right. They had to.
If they knew from the beginning, okay, not very many people like him. He wasn't supposed to be hired. They shouldn't be that shocked when he receives a 2.5 or.
Right. Totally.
I didn't like that they were bullying her to not give him a 2.5.
I know.
Yeah.
I didn't like. I mean, that's like.
And I felt like Phil was the. Like, no, are you sure you need to give him a 2.5? But who really needs that 2.5 you want to give out? It's Phil. I felt like they were trying to pass the buck to Phil.
Right.
Yeah.
They didn't like him. So, okay. So our next thing is we're going to be talking about the analysis of the company's HR practices and how well do you think the company is doing with its HR practices generally? Like overall, do you think they're doing a good job? Do you think they need to improve?
I do like that they say that they have, is it every 6 months they have performance reviews? That's a good thing.
That is a good thing.
That's good.
I also didn't mind the PIP. I actually thought that set the company up very well.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting though that the PIPs, like, they were almost a case building.
Oh, for sure, which is why I think it's great for them.
But with it being an at-will company, do they really need it? Because, like, have you guys taken the quiz yet?
No.
One of the questions reflects on this, and one of the answers to the question was it gives them it keeps them around longer than they should be, and that's anyways. I thought about a lot of, I don't know if you guys noticed that with the quizzes, a lot of the answers could be the right answer. You just have to pick the most correct. And so when I was like, oh, that actually does make sense. It makes it harder for somebody to fire a non-performing employee if they didn't have that in place. But I think there are some good, because you don't really have to have a case behind somebody to fire somebody in an at-will situation.
So at the company that I work for, the dentist office, we have an at-will, like employment at-will thing that you sign. However, I don't know if it's California state law or what it is, but you can't just fire them. And so there was this lady, this dental assistant, who fell asleep cleaning somebody's teeth. Okay?
Oh,
and they couldn't fire her. They couldn't fire her.
So you signed a thing that said you could be fired at any time, but then they couldn't do it?
They couldn't do it. Because they couldn't do it just because of that, because there hadn't been a prior warning of that. So if it happened again, yes. But because it was the first whatever, they couldn't fire her. But it happened again, so she was fired. And she was a terrible employee.
Well,
Wow,
is
it says
that-
a lot. Like that time when I thought that guy wasn't gonna cause problems in the airport, and I said it was okay. They stayed, and
Yeah.
then they.
So, I mean, I think the PIP is good because that's basically what
I
they
do
gave
too.
this lady. They were like, you know what? You're terrible, so the next instance you do anything, you're gone.
Yeah, I guess that's a good
Well,
point.
because it kind of falls under breach of implied contract. If there's been no past warnings, anything like
Right.
that, which is why I think I was calling it PIP in my head, which is why I think that PIP policy is good for the company.
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
point. I guess that's a good point. I don't think she liked it very much, but it is a good point.
Yeah.
No, more because of her personality, though, where she'd rather just be.
Cut the cord.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it's better just for the sake of like lawsuits, things along those lines, not
Yeah.
because it's actually like, oh, this is an amazing thing. Like it just
Right.
gives
That's
the company leverage, I feel like.
Nowadays, with everybody suing everybody for any little tiny reason,
Yeah.
coming up with
It gives you
Right.
some back
yeah, I
then.
guess. All right, I'm on board now. Good job, ladies. How does this company hire? What are their hiring practices?
I thought they were fabulous as well.
Except
Yeah.
for with Terry.
Except for Terry. Yeah. Going through all the
Except
interviews
for
is really good. How do they manage people and give them feedback?
So the manager of the soft goods is just straightforward, lets them know if they do something wrong, but also says, if you do something right, I will praise you. And she just is straightforward to the punch.
Do you think that she was the only one that was that way? I kind of got the sense that she was the only one that approached management that way, and that
Yeah,
the other one was softy.
because she
I
said
got the
that
same feeling.
she hates the condescending ways of the other people.
Yeah.
And she didn't say my managers or people in this company, but it led you to believe that.
Right. And that kind of goes into our next question of, do employees get a clear picture from the company of how they're performing?
I would guess that yes, because they've got the scale and everything that they do. You know, it's not just like, hey, good job today. Or they actually have a scale and they're rated and.
And it's like
But then there's
so,
also Terry that's getting the wrong numbers because people are scared of management.
Right, I agree. I think he was the only case though. I mean, I got
Right.
the feeling that he was kind of a.
I thought, yeah, I can agree with that.
Okay. We've talked about PIPs. Do you think this manager can make good decisions about these two individuals, or does she seem to be influenced by biases that will be hard to overcome?
No, I don't think she has any biases.
Either. I think she's
No.
good. She's good. Okay. So at this point, we need to ask, okay, Jennifer, you can answer this question assuming you haven't read the other. What do you think? I need you to commit to a decision about what the manager should do with respect to Phil and Terry. We'll talk about Terry first. Alicia, what do you think she should do?
what she should do about. Sorry, I can't hear some of the things you're saying.
Oh, what should the manager do about Terry?
Oh, Terry. To be honest, I'm not sure.
Okay,
I'm scared to answer these now because ever since that airport one, I'm like,
Well, just like, should she fire him? Should she keep him on? Should she fall under pressures from upper management? Should what would be the should she give him a 2.5? Should she give him a 3.5?
I would probably go with the 2.5.
Okay. Jennifer, what did you think before you read it?
2.5.
Okay. How about you, Mallory?
I think she should give him a 2.5. And if she doesn't let him go this time, I think it should kind of be like its own warning in itself. Like, I got my eye on you. You're not doing very well. Like, step it up.
Yeah. Do you think it would be hard
Yeah, that's probably.
to go?
Jennifer's laughing. What's so funny?
I have like, I've got all these people walking through my house. My dog is going crazy. He's not barking, but sorry, I'm distracted.
Same.
These two don't know. I have baseboards getting put in today.
Oh, nice.
So everything in my house is sucked to the middle of rooms. And
Are you doing the 6-inch baseboard?
yeah, well, you know how wood is, it's always a ½ inch off. So they were supposed to be 6 or 5.5.
Yeah. No, we put them in when we redid our downstairs, and I love them. I can't wait to put them upstairs.
I did not go fancy though. I didn't do a fancy cut. I just did Craftsman style. So it's just the block,
Yeah.
which I love Craftsman style.
Yeah.
We're also redoing our doors and building crowns to go on top of our doors.
What I want to do next. That's on my next to-do list. I love it. So
I do too. Anyway, sorry, go on.
Back to stop. Last week, were you on when Karen was asking me about my, no, you weren't. It was when we were negotiating. She was asking me about my cabinet color. And Alicia was like, come on, girls.
What color is your cabinet? What color are your cabinets?
Off like a grayish white.
Oh, are they?
Mm-hmm.
Mine, I bought the house in 2013, so mine are what? That really dark.
Oh, dark. Yep.
The dark.
Yep. Ours had not been touched since the 1990s, so they were pink laminate.
Oh, fun. My mom bought a house like that. Okay, anyway, they're starting to get noisy.
Okay, we're almost finished. So so what are the alternatives to firing Terry?
She could do the PIP.
Mm-hmm.
She could just give him a warning and talk to him about, hey, your performance isn't up to par. If you want to stay in this company, you need to improve within the next 6 months, or give him a time frame or something.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a good idea. Give him a time frame. I like that.
So I'm just going to kind of briefly, instead of having you guys read part 2, I'm just going to tell you what happened. So she ended up giving Terry 2.5, and she said she was very scared about doing it. She sat him down before the review came in and said, Terry, let's talk about what is going to happen when you get your review back. I'm going to give you a 2.5. He said, I thought I would get a 3.0. Terry said he knew it wasn't going to be a 3.5, but he was definitely not happy about my plan. So she ended up talking to him and basically said, we've hired all of these people. How do you compare with these people? And he was honest and said that he didn't feel that he was up to par. And he said these people are superstars and he wasn't able to keep up. So he was able to recognize that he wasn't at the caliber of the people that she was currently hiring. So, and she was very upfront with him. She said, look, I don't want to lead you down this path of a PIP. I don't want to put you there. I don't think it's respectful. And how she reminded him about a guy who was escorted to his office and got a half an hour to clean out his desk. She's like, I just don't want to put you on that. She said, but what I would like you to do, because I'm your friend and a manager, I would like she said, this is not a good fit for you, but there's got to be a position within the company that is a good fit for you. So she said, you can stay on my team until you can find a new position. I'm not going to fire you, but you know that we need to find something different for you. And this way you can go out with dignity and respect. So if you can't find a position, we'll have a big party for you and make it look like it was your choice to leave. So he asked her how long that she had, and she said, look, I'm not going to give you a deadline. What did she say? She said, why don't you give it an honest, fair shot? I don't know what it is, maybe 3 months or something. I'm not going to give you a date, but I think that in 3 months, if there's a position for you in the company, you could find it. So she talked to her boss and told her boss what she was doing. Terry spent time looking for another job, but everyone would go and ask his peers about him, and none of them had any good feedback about Terry. So he couldn't get another job in the company. We had a big party for him. He wrote a letter to everyone saying that he was moving on to spend time on scuba, which was his real passion. Eventually, he got a job in an engineering company and was promoted to a manager. I heard he was doing a great job there because it's pure engineering, math, and equations, which didn't require analytical decision-making. He considers me a friend, and we keep in touch. So that is what happened with Terry. So what do you think about that?
I think that's good.
Isn't that awesome?
If I was in that situation, that's what I would want for myself, I feel like.
Yeah, she treated him with the utmost respect and was really kind and honest and sincere, and put it in his hands to take control of his destiny, which I thought was really
right.
I thought it was fabulous.
Yeah, my dog's It's new and it's shiny. It has balls all over it. So, woo! Okay, so Phil, so I'm just going to read this because it's super short. Letting Phil go would have looked like we were firing him because he had been sick. Plus, Plus, he had been sick, and you don't fire a guy like that. And you just rally the whole company around this guy, and everyone is so glad that he has survived, and he became untouchable. What happened is that when he was gone, we hired a replacement for him. And I asked HR what happened when he got better and was coming back, and HR said they would create a new slot for him. So when he came back, he had already been replaced. He was just an extra person on the team. It wasn't really a problem for me, except for the time it took to manage him. I also had to make him happy. He'd been there for a long time and had never been promoted, so I had to manage his expectations. I gave him 3.0 on his reviews. The time it took me to manage him wasn't a big deal, so that was basically it. Because he knew my boss had a vendetta against him, he decided to leave the soft goods team when I left the company. He moved to another team. It took him because he was a free slot. I think he ended up on the international team, which was the only team that would take him because no one wanted to work on the international team. Their job was just to take the basic product and make it French friendly or German friendly. We continued to be friends, and I heard he kept getting 3.0s. About a year later, he was diagnosed with an inoperable brain cancer, and then he had to leave the company for good. He died not too long after that.
Aww.
Poor Phil.
Poor Phil.
That's rough.
So that's the end of the story. That's what we all.
Okay.
So real quickly, what can we learn about this case about making decisions from about termination?
That she knows her stuff.
Yeah. Would
I
you
really
model, if you were put in a management position, would you model your management style after hers?
Yes.
That's how I do my life anyway. It's actually how I mother.
Yeah.
I think it's important to look at each case specifically because, yeah, your company has policies, but with Terry, she had to go about it in a specific way because of management. And with Phil, you have to go about it different ways because different people have different things that they're struggling with or things like that. So,
and we've kind of already talked about what she did that was effective. Is there anything that was not effective about what she did?
I don't think her management style is for everybody. Just like I mother that way, and I really don't think it's for everybody.
Yeah.
In my family either. So I don't know that everybody would get along with her management style.
Do you adjust your management style for your kids, for each individual kid, or is it straight across the board for everybody?
No, I pretty much am straight. I have 5, and I pretty much treat them all, depending on their age, because I have a smaller group and I have a, like a younger group and a older group.
Older group.
But no, I pretty much treat them all the same because if you don't, kids pick up on that. Woo.
Right.
Yeah, that is
I
true.
think.
Yeah, for sure.
My mom's one of those ones that doesn't there's differences for all of us, and it's really confusing.
I do think they pick up on that's not fair, you treat her this way or whatever. So I do it all across the board. But you want to know what made me do it was what's that singing competition called? American Idol.
Oh yeah.
Because those moms would get on there and they would be like, what? You're not going to give her a golden ticket? And they couldn't sing at all.
Right.
And I always, because Cassie was like a baby when that show came on, and I was like, I'm not going to be that mom. I am not going to give my kids false hope and tell them that they're the best when they suck.
Right.
So that's kind of how I mother.
I like it.
Like, I'm like, no, honey, that's terrible. You need to redo that or whatever.
Yeah. I'm a little bit more gentle, but I'm the
Are
same.
you?
I don't give them, a little bit. Mine are younger. They're 10 and 6. And so I'm like, hey, is that your best? Let's do it in your best handwriting. I know you can do better than that. So not, hey, that sucks.
Oh, yeah. I pretty much am like, that doesn't look very good, honey. Let's redo that. Do you need my help or whatever?
I erased my 6-year-old spelling words last night because they were so, I couldn't read them. I'm like, Peyton, you have to redo this. I don't even know what word this is. Anybody have any final thoughts that they want to throw out there? Or?
I thought it was a great week. I thought the reading itself was boring, but it wasn't very long. The employment at will reading, but I thought the case study was great. I thought it was a great example for us to learn from as students.
Totally.
Yeah.
How you could tactfully handle a situation where people weren't doing their best, but they're all adults, and she was honest, and I just liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. I didn't like the employment at will reading, but the case study was good. So.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to stop this.